Got a happy hour huddle rocking and rolling here. Robin's going to give me a shout out just to confirm that we're live on Facebook. Hope you guys are doing great. And hope you're hearing me okay. Great evening. Back in Tennessee, back in East Tennessee after a road trip. I'm going to kind of talk about the National here in a minute. Like I said, Robin's going to give me a little heads up that confirming that we're rocking and rolling. Always a lot of moving parts here. And I'll get back to our first scene. Are we doing good? Oh, yeah, there we are. Okay, cool. All right. Well, there we are. We got a little bit of good deal. There's Robin saying yay. Guys, go ahead and give us a shout out. Tell us what's going on, where you're from. This is fun. So we got comments will pop in, and I'll throw them on the screen. Happy hour huddle. There we go. All right. How about it, Jeff? Audio and video are good. Mr. Mark Redinger. Holy smokes, Mark. Don't tell me you're going fishing. You're killing me with that. How's everybody doing? And, well, there we go. How about it, Lee? Congratulations. Cool stuff. There's Todd. Mr. Smith. Jeff. Good stuff, guys. Yeah, that's sometimes some of the, don't know if we're blurry in the background, but how you doing out there? Hopefully some of our stuff here is going to show up well. We're going to talk about 2023 National Amateur and kind of some of my takeaways on that. Pretty darn good field trip. Really was. In some ways, it felt a little old school, especially with some of the water stuff. We had some natural water. Did a pretty darn good job. The conditions, it got hot. It was tough for a while. And, well, Mr. Scheffler, hey, buddy. And Becky Mills. Hey, Becky. I don't know if you guys are seeing all that, but it's fun to pop those up. Good national. It really was. And like I said, it had an old school feel to a certain degree because, well, certainly the 10th series, 9th series, very nice. Lots of natural cover. But I'm going to go through a few of the series that I really liked and why I liked them. And so why don't we get started on that? Third series. I think that was really kind of when the trial started. Now, there's a ground view of a land triple. Now, excuse me, it's actually a water triple. I shouldn't say that. Land water triple, because it's their first set of watermarks. But you don't see much water there, do you? And that's typical of a national early set of watermarks. That middle bird, that middle retired rooster pheasant, certainly gave a lot of people trouble. They had a retired gun on the right here. Let me give you another view of that. Well, there's that middle bird thrown off that mound. The guy's retired deep and behind that brush, threw into that patch of cover. The perfect line did go through that little pothole, but most dogs kind of ran at the gun more, and a lot of dogs hunted deep behind the gun, deep of the gun, crossed the road, had a hard time coming back. As the scent built up, and again, those third series, you got a lot of dogs. Like so many national tests, you'll go through a stretch where, well, you about can't do the test. It's really hard, and that's the way it started. Jeff, you ran in a rough stretch there, buddy. And, sometimes the timing when you run a test is just, the difference between going deep into the trial and going out, early, and you happen to run at a rough time there. But that was the bird that gave most dogs the amount of trouble. And, well, again, there's the ground view of that scenario. Now, certainly one thing is that you picked up a duck first. Then you had the mixed bag factor, which is always challenging. But the dog didn't, as you can see, he didn't see a lot of that water, or any of it for that matter, when he was on the mat. Again, there's your middle bird. Third series, solid test. Gave him some good answers. This is when it really got down and dirty. Fifth series, quad. You had 2 ducks and 2 pheasants. This is when the heat hit. Now, apparently number 3, retired gun, which turned out to be the killer bird. The right-hand retired bird, pretty solid too. And you can see the order. Shot, long flyer, duck first, right-hand retired second, thrown flat and into the water. You'll see the blow-ups of the fall areas. Number 3 was the killer bird. It threw right at underneath the go bird hen pheasant flyer on the left. And the wind stayed pretty consistent, and that bird stayed tough. This test took 3 days to complete because of the heat. And not very often will a short bird stand the test of time like that, and this one absolutely did. It was just as hard for the last dogs as it was for the beginning dogs. You're going to see. Here's that right-hand retired bird thrown. The gunners come out from behind those trees, throw a flat throw that almost felt slightly angle into some flooded grass, and the dogs went through these channels on these marks, and that was really smart to keep these dogs from getting too warm. This bird did provide some interest. A few dogs lined underneath the arc. See those hay bales that are deep? Dogs sometimes targeted those. They've got that profile of a holding blind, and they draw dogs out to them. Here's that left-hand bird, and they threw that bird right in between a little bush and the tree, and there was just enough cover, and they threw it just on the backside. And you can see to the left of that bird deep, the other flyer gunners, they're not very far away. And with those dogs, only a few would get up to that bale underneath the arc and be able to recover. If they didn't break down within one of those mode strips, maybe the second one, and acknowledge that gunner, they ended up handling on that bird. Really, really tough bird. And, well, Mr. Lardy told me a few years ago he thought that 80% of dogs go out of nationals by overrunning birds, unlike weekend trials. And, well, it certainly turned out to be the case here, because this ended up being a killer bird. Now, they got into some longer birds later in the trial, but this fifth series is what really changed the whole complexion of this national. And you've got to feel good as a judge when that bird held up for 3 days, and I didn't see a single dog get a wind save on this bird, even when you thought they might. Plenty hard test. Well, there's the overhead view of that test. Okay, so I'm looking from straight above, straight down in the bottom. You see the box, the white box. That's the that was roughly where the line was. So you saw that little winding stream, and you saw some of that stuff that really kind of threw them a little bit off kilter. Tough test, good solid test, and a classic national test. And well, when I saw dogs figure that test out, they were really using their head, and it was impressive. Well, this was my favorite test of the national. A-series water triple. Now, that's what it looked like from the ground. Pretty ominous, huh? They threw, well, you're going to see these throws in here. You're going to see another view here in just a second. But that's what the dog saw. There's that winding channel in front that they crossed on. Well, they crossed water on the right side of the road en route to the flyer. That long bird up the middle was thrown first. And then you had the bird on the left thrown second. You're going to see this here in a second. Well, look at this spot. Now that's natural water. Yeah, it's got some points, but look at all the cover in the water. There's an island out there. You got that finger there on the left. And, well, you're going to see where the bird's thrown. And the wind was perfect for these judges. And I'm going to show you that. Well, there's that bird. That's where they threw it. And, again, they didn't hit that water until, it had to be close to 200 yards before they even got to this piece of water. So there was a lot of factors. That patch of cover on this side of the road would deflect dogs to the right. Sometimes they'd end up between the two birds or deflect them left, and then they grabbed less water. Some of them cheated, got over to the left, and ended up having a substantial hunt. This is always one of my most favorite birds. Island bird thrown out in the water. We call them questing birds. I think they're the ultimate bird for courage and perseverance, and it proved to be the case. These dogs would get into those tall reeds and have to gut it out, and some of them came back. Some of them kind of quit their hunt. Even the best dogs in the country really struggled with this. And this bird right here, well, and again, the right-hand bird, tough too. Classically tough, more of a long reentry down the shore bird. Very, very well-designed test. Very well designed. Well, there's the overhead view. So now you appreciate that a little bit more. Same test. White boxes are lined. Now you really appreciate what those dogs had to negotiate. Saw that island bird on the left. If you push too hard at it, a lot of dogs ended up between the two birds, and they tended to want to hunt those trees right at the edge of the water. And then if you didn't push hard enough on number one, you ended up out in that field to the right, out in those hay bales. And, well, you could have an extremely substantial hunt. That's a great test for all the right reasons. And, it is man-made water, but it looks like old school water to me with all that cover in the water. I'll tell you what, I loved it. I loved it. I don't have the 10 series in here, and I'm not going to keep you too late tonight, but it was a darn good national for the right reasons. That 3rd series, good solid test. 5th series, killer short bird. Killer short bird. And that mixed bag had a quad, 2 flyers. A series, I'm sure people are going to run back and repeat that test, because it was a beauty. And you'd do those as singles and you'd have a hard time. Look for those questing birds, those birds out in the water. I'm going to go back to that a little bit because I want to show you something. The wind is key. Look at the wind. The key to these kinds of marks, for them to work, is that the wind is such that the dogs cannot smell the bird when they are not dealing with the factors, because if they didn't smell the bird where the gun was standing on either of those 2 marks, but especially the left hand, the R2, and those dogs, they had to will themselves out in the water to find that bird. The wind was absolutely perfect for the judges, so that if it was a right to left wind, it might have blown them in, but they'd have smelled it from the shore. And if it was a left to right wind, the wind might have helped them get out in the water. And then they might have winded the right-hand bird from out in the field. But in this instance, this test, just like the 5th series, held up. It did go over the course of 2 days. And actually, the winner ended up running on the 2nd day in the morning. I just can't stress enough. Now, I know that you look at those yardages and they're intimidating, but you can do the same concepts at 150 yards and not 275. Look for those great birds in the water. Teach dogs to use their head. Teach them to persevere and hunt and be smart, because that's really what it's all about. And when the dogs that win a trial like this, well, they're winning it for the right reasons. They've got courage, perseverance, they're smart, they're savvy, and this was no exception. These judges should be awfully proud of this field trial. But I'm talking about the trial, but I'm also talking about trying to show you 3 different series of key birds and why they were really good. Most all of them were especially this one and the third, it was hard to get to the bird and then hard to find the bird when you got there. So, well, back at our happy hour huddle, I'm excited that you joined me again tonight. We take about 15 minutes, talk a little dog stuff, and I wanted to share with you the National. What's that, Robin? Well, that's right. Well, I had somebody give me a shout out because, and I did talk about it. Josie, you sent me a text and you said, talk about the natural nature of the grounds. And that's what I did just talk about. There's the 10 series, even more so, big water, lots of cover, lily pads, the epitome of natural conditions as much as possible. And it's great to see that. It really is. Our game has maybe lost something because we don't have as much of that. Part of it is we've lost access to public grounds, but and then we forget on how to look for these kinds of birds. Well, these guys found them, and I know they had some good help from people that know that. And this was a great field trial, and Josie, I'm really glad you pointed that out. That's where I was going right off the bat, is just showing you what kind of those gutsy birds look like. And it's not just discipline and going straight. It's kind of that inner desire not to quit and to figure it out. And between being a good marker and a great thinker and having courage and perseverance and having all the balance, well, that's what a national champion should be. So, all right, everybody. I guess I've gone over a little bit over my 15-minute mark. It's good stuff. Great to see you again. And keep an eye out. We're going to try to keep this happy huddle hour thing going. And I hope you're having a great night. And hey, we'll see you soon. All right, bye-bye.